For my informative speech, I have decided to talk about something that is important to me and many others in the LGBTQIA plus community, and that is Pride in the Stonewall riots. Pride started as a riot. Looking back on the history of how Pride started is a reminder of how far the LGBTQIA plus community has come, but also how far we have to go as history repeats itself. It's my history and the history of so many others in this beautifully diverse community, and my goal is to provide information on Pride and how it got started and why it's important. Before the Stonewall riots of 1969, things were not easy for those in the LGBTQIA plus community. Many hid who they were, and those that were out were set up for homophobic slurs, police raids, and even subject to violent attacks, either by citizens or police officers. Even being arrested for who they were, just being themselves. And in some cases, extreme measures were taken with lobotomies that would be performed on gay men and even conversion therapy, which is still in practice in some areas today. Even more things happened for those in the community in New York. It became a sanctuary of some sorts for the community, but it wasn't easy. To survive, some committed petty theft and other questionable crimes to just survive, while others took the more somber and serious route of ending their lives. We can't talk about Pride without mentioning those of color who had the additional added pain of racial slurs tied in to the homophobic attacks. They're important to the story and should be included as well. Stonewall wasn't the start of activism, but it was the tipping point that catapulted the issue. During the 1950s and 1960s, those of the LGBTQIA plus community faced a lot and didn't have a lot of places to go except bars. Stonewall Inn was one of those places. It was made for those that were poor and those that weren't popular in the community, such as drag queens and those that were transgender, and even homeless youth, and so much more. It became a safe haven and a place to feel comfortable, but that was ruined on June 28th at 1:20 a.m. It was known that police raids were normal during this time, and it happened a lot at other bars in other parts of New York. As well, during this time, there was a public morals squad in the New York Police Department. That it was their job to go to these bars, raid, gather people up, assault, and do so many other questionable things. But this is when things changed this night. This was different from other raids. People had had enough and they were going to stand up and fight. And so they did. It all started when four plainclothes officers and a detective, Charles Smythe, and Deputy Inspector Seymour Pine made it to Stonewall Inn, announcing themselves like they normally did, and it caused a panic. Employees normally were notified when a riot was going to occur, but this night they were not. Protocol went out the window with the police as well that night, and they took actions that were wrong on several levels: assault, sexual assault, beatings, so many things. Things continued to spiral out of control from there. Transport vehicles were supposed to occur, but there were delays. Rumors were swirling. Mafia members were arrested. Some of the crowd were patrons and others were bystanders. People were shouting gay power. Some people were singing We Shall Overcome. The riot hadn't started yet, but when someone shoved a drag queen, that drag queen responded with a smack to the officer in the head, which caused them to be clubbed in the head, and it went downhill from there. More people got assaulted. Police officers were outnumbered. They got hit. Both people on both sides were injured and were hurt. Building was damaged, glass was damaged, things were set on fire. So many other things occurred as well. It was a mayhem for the police officers that night trying to stop the riot, but it didn't stop and it went on until July 3rd. The very first Pride March started on Christopher Street first the following year and spread to other cities. Then, the following year in 1972, more marches started and Pride became a yearly thing and continued to grow to what we know today and is now worldwide. There were organizations that followed and formed after this time, such as the Gay Liberation Front and Gay Activist Alliance, to even those for the trans community, which deserve more spotlight. We can't talk about Pride and the Stonewall Inn without talking about two very important activists, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who were activists for the transgender community and activists for the community as a whole. They founded STAR, which is Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, and it was a way to help trans people who didn't seem to be represented by other organizations. They were both drag queens as well. And it was noted that Marsha P. Johnson was there the night of the Stonewall riots. As well, TAT, Transvestites and Transsexuals, and Queens Liberation Front, or QLF, were also established during this time as well, which helped those in the transgender community during this awful time and inspired a lot of the organizations we have today. Pride is just as important today as it was when it started a year after Stonewall. The community is vulnerable in our society today, especially those who are transgender. Anti-trans, anti-LGBTQIA+ bills are being passed in several states, and other rules and laws in other countries are in effect as well. People are being falsely claimed as being transgender when they're not, which is leading to further attacks. Drag queens are at risk with drag queen reading time, where extremist groups are showing up. Everything, the list could go on of everything negative going on. But this is still important as to talking about why Pride is important. Even with all the negative things, we still need to have this and remember the history. We're all the same on the inside. The skeletons are all the same. Pride today is a celebration of ourselves, of love, and a reminder of those who came before us, the pain and suffering that they went through, but of their resilience and strength. Those that stood up during Stonewall riots, meaning before then, are the people who paved the way for me to be out and proud of who I am today. It's a way for us to stand up for ourselves and the discrimination that we still face today. What Pride means is a celebration of love, overcoming the painful past. Pride allows healing and growth as well. Pride is change. Today, things are different than what they were before Pride, but change is still needed to protect us because we are vulnerable once again. Thank you.